Hello, I'm continuing my reviews on the Blair Witch series with the 2016 horror film Blair Witch. Now, this video is technically going to be two reviews in one. The first 10 minutes of this video is my non-spoiler review of the film, then the rest of the video from then on is going to be a nearly 50-minute long video of me and my friends talking about this film, and in that portion of the video, we're going to be dealing a lot with spoilers, so if you haven't seen this film, you might not want to watch the 50-minute long review that me and my friends did. You might just want to stick with the first 10 minutes, but if you have seen this film, definitely check out the nearly hour-long review that me and my friends did of the film. Now, Blair Witch is the third film in the Blair Witch series. The film acts as a direct sequel to the original The Blair Witch Project. Now, I would say that it completely ignores Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2, but Blair Witch 2 wasn't really in continuity with the first one, so that one already wasn't even canon. But once again, this film, it acts as a direct sequel to the original film. Now, Blair Witch is directed by Adam Wingard, who previously directed films like You're Next and The Guest. Now, early marketing for this film was promoting it as a movie called The Woods, so they were actually trying to hide the fact that this was a Blair Witch sequel, and I remember seeing the trailer for this movie back when it was called The Woods, right in front of the Purge election year, and I remember seeing the trailer for that and thinking, wow, that looks really interesting, and then of course I found out later on that it's actually a sequel to the Blair Witch Project, and to put it lightly, when I found out that it was a Blair Witch sequel, I kind of creamed my pants, because I'm a huge fan of the original The Blair Witch Project. Now, I have to say that I genuinely liked Blair Witch. Now, I didn't like it as much as the original film, but I kind of knew going into this that there was no way that this movie was actually going to top the original film, because one of the things that's so great about the original The Blair Witch Project is it doesn't feel like a movie, it feels real. Of course, it wasn't real, but it legitimately feels like this was real footage that somebody found out in the woods and then edited together. Like, the original film feels real. This one, I could tell from the trailers that this was going to feel more like a movie, and it did. And it was good for what it was, but I knew going in that this was not going to top the original film. But overall, I enjoyed the film a lot. It had some problems, like it definitely wasn't a perfect film, but overall though, I enjoyed it. Now, the plot of Blair Witch is it's set 20 years after the events of the original film. The original film was set in 1994. This is set in 2014. Now, the film follows a young man named James Donahue, who is actually the younger brother of Heather Donahue, who was one of the main characters of the original film. And he was a little kid when Heather disappeared, but for years he has been haunted by the mystery of what actually happened to Heather. Now, in the movie, his friend Lisa is making a documentary for one of her classes, and she's using him as the subject for the documentary, and essentially the documentary she's making is about him trying to figure out what actually happened to his sister. Now, in the film, James, Lisa, and their friend Peter and their friend Ashley go out to the woods that the first movie took place at, and they're with these two locals from the town of Burkittsville who say they're going to guide them through the woods, and essentially they're out there trying to figure out what actually happened to Heather, Mike, and Josh in the first movie. And long story short, it turns out that the legend of the Blair Witch is real, and the Blair Witch starts going after all of them. Now, shortly after the first movie came out, there was a series of young adult novels called The Blair Witch Files. Now, I haven't read these books yet, but apparently they follow Heather Donahue's cousin, and apparently they're about Heather's cousin looking for Heather and trying to figure out exactly what happened to her, and I can't say this for sure because, once again, I haven't read those books yet, but it almost seems like Adam Wingard may have taken some inspiration from those books for this movie, in the sense that it's a movie about a relative of Heather's looking for her, only in this movie it's her brother instead of her cousin. Now, as I said, I actually really liked Blair Witch. It's not a perfect movie, but I genuinely enjoyed the film, and I found it to be a genuinely pretty creepy film. Granted, it's not as creepy as the original film, but one of the things that made the original film so creepy was the fact that it felt real. This movie, as I said before, feels more like a traditional movie, and because of that, it's not as horrifying as the original film, but it's still a pretty creepy little movie. And one thing I liked about this was they do expand a little bit more on the Blair Witch mythos. At the same time, though, there's still a lot in this movie that is still kind of left open to the viewer's interpretation. Now, one of the things that made the original film so creepy, aside from the fact that it really felt real, was in the original film, you never actually saw the witch. So what you created in your mind was far more terrifying than anything they could have possibly shown you in the film. That being said, however, in this movie, you actually do see the witch. But luckily, though, they use the witch very sparingly. Like, you don't see the witch till towards the end, so they really kind of build it up, kind of like Jaws, where, like, they build it up so you don't see this thing till the end of the film. And I have to say that the witch is pretty shit-your-pants scary looking in this film. Like, the way the witch looks in this movie, if I was in the middle of the woods and I saw that thing coming at me, I would probably curl up into a ball and cry. Now, some of the things I didn't like about this movie: in the film, there are a lot of jump scares. Now, I don't mind jump scares if they're done right, but in this film, there are so many, like, false jump scares that it really got annoying after, like, the 5th or 6th time that a false jump scare happened in this movie. And not to make another comparison to the original film, but the original film did not have to rely on jump scares in order to be terrifying. Another thing that I didn't particularly care for about this movie, and I hate to say it because this is usually essential in a horror film, but it's really the characters. The characters in this movie, okay, they weren't all annoying, but I didn't particularly like a lot of the characters in this film. Now, the main character, James Donahue, he was a fairly likable character, so was the character of Lisa. They were both, for the most part, pretty likable characters. But then you had the character of Peter, and I'm sorry, I found Peter to be such a freaking douchebag in this movie. Like, he was so, when they meet the two locals from the town of Burkittsville, he was so, like, unnecessarily mean to these two characters. Now, to be fair, there was a point where, when they're at their house, one of them has, like, a Confederate flag in their living room. To an extent, I can understand why he was a little offended by that, but he was just such a douchebag to them throughout the whole movie, and frankly, I hated the character of Peter. And then you had the character of Ashley, who wasn't necessarily an unlikable character, but she was kind of annoying at points. Although something does happen to her where I do feel a lot of sympathy for her because of what happens to her. I don't want to give it away, but what happens to her in the movie is actually pretty freaking horrifying. And then you had the two locals from the town of Burkittsville, Lane and Talia. Now, Lane, I actually didn't hate his character. I can understand why certain people didn't like this character, and I can understand why the characters in the movie didn't like him, but I personally didn't hate him. Honestly, the one character in this movie who I thought felt the most genuine was the character of Talia, who I felt really bad for, honestly, and I thought both her and Lane kind of got the short end of the stick in this movie without giving too much away. Once again, despite its flaws, I still liked Blair Witch. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but I still enjoyed the film for the most part. Now, next you're going to see a little Blair Witch style skit that me and some friends of mine made. And after the skit, you're going to see a nearly 50-minute long review that me and those same friends of mine recorded of this film. Now, the review we did of this movie, it's a little rough around the edges, but it's not really their fault. It's my fault mostly, but basically in the review, there are points where you hear my dog barking, and I don't know what it was with us, but we kept screwing up characters' names in the review. Me especially, and I'm usually really good with character names, but I kept screwing up the names of the characters in this movie. So once again, it's a little rough around the edges, but I hope you enjoy the nearly hour-long review that me and my friends did of this film.
I was gonna go and sleep.
I forgot to turn the camera off and all that. And what are you guys still doing here?
Well, we live here, don't you know that?
Yeah.
The fuck is he doing? Hello, welcome to the spoiler portion of my Blair Witch review, and doing the spoiler portion with me is my friend Cam. He's been in a few of my videos before, and those of you who also follow my friend Mark's channel, he's been a big part of the Friday sagas as well. It's my friend Guillermo, first time ever being in one of my videos, and this is whoever that is. Yeah. Let's talk about the film. What did you all think of the film? Why don't you start with your opinions first?
I ended up loving it. I was a very big fan of the film. My personal interpretation, it basically was Blair Witch in 2016. As a standalone film, phenomenal, highly recommend it. And I'll obviously get more as we talk more.
Alright, I would say I definitely liked it. I think it was creepier watching it a second time. I feel like it's not going to top the original, because one of the things about the original that I find to be so freaking creepy is, for one, in the original, it doesn't explicitly state that it's something supernatural. Like, for all you know, maybe Heather, Mike, and Josh are being followed by some kind of killer who's just using the Blair Witch legend to fuck with them. In the original one, you're not really sure if it's supernatural or not. Here, it's pretty obviously something supernatural. Mm-hmm. And also in the original one, you never actually saw what was following them, and what you build in your head is far more horrifying than anything they could have showed you in a movie. But I think, spoiler warning, I did say this was a spoiler part. You see the witch, of course, and I think the witch is pretty freaking terrifying looking. And I like how in the movie, she doesn't even look remotely human when you see her.
Yeah. It's interesting because she looked like more like a Cloverfield, something like sort of Cloverfield monster a little bit.
Like a generic monster movie making now. They do it's like a mesh or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah, but what I liked about it was, I liked how you kind of get the idea that this witch, her spirit has been haunting this woods for so long that now she's not even remotely human, that whatever part of her that may have been human once is completely dead at this point, and she pretty much is the monster that the people who killed her made her out to be to begin with. Like, in a way, she kind of became exactly what they made her.
Well, those village people were right. She was a witch.
Yeah. And I liked how it was a callback to how I take it as she looked like how they left her. They left her hanging in the air with the rocks elongating her arms and her legs. And you can see that because she had like that kind of awkward walk and like really large limbs.
Lanky.
Yeah, very lanky, thank you. So I would definitely say it was a good throwback to that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely, yeah.
You were talking before we started recording that you felt like she looked almost like a tree, almost.
Yeah, because they tied her up to a tree, and then they made a makeshift rack, you know, where they would pull her arms and legs while they were hanging her tied up to the tree. I mean, but that happened like what, almost 500 years ago, to the point where the movie starts. So after all that time, pretty much it kind of like decomposed against the tree, and that's why I assume like the entire woods is haunted. That entire area where the town of Blair used to be. So I found that pretty interesting. So they made the nature part of the witch as a monster now. So good.
So how did we like the setup of the film? Basically our introduction period, basically from when the movie started to when we first got to the woods.
I like that. I thought
it was good for the most part. They did a good job at setting up the characters. Like, you get why James needs to be out there. He's looking for Heather. And I remember you mentioned this. You found it funny that they never once mentioned Mike or Josh.
I do. I love it. Not a single moment in time. Everyone's like, it's been 15 years. Mike and Josh probably dead. Whatever. We're not going to think about that. Yeah, James is like, Heather somehow survived it. You know, not a single mention of Josh or Mike. I just found, I find a comedic aspect of that.
I find
really
it pretty funny too, because not even just, whenever they did mention them, they'll talk about Heather and her friends.
Yes. No
like,
one gave a damn about finding them.
Watch this movie, the sequel. If they're gonna be making sequels to it, I find it even funnier if they decided the next Blair Witch 2. Mike's family starts to look into it. Or then, was it Josh? Mike and Josh.
Yes.
Yeah. Josh's family starts to look into it. Like, okay, that would be kind of stupid. But, I mean...
And you would have thought that they would have reached out.
You know,
Like, at some point, like James would have reached out to maybe Mike and Josh family or something and see like, hey, have you guys heard anything from them? Or say, at least throw a little reference to them. And be like, no, we haven't heard anything. And they just automatically assume that they're dead. Just like a kind of like a throwback, you know.
What do you guys think of like the witch's time manipulation aspect of the movie they introduced?
I thought that was
we're jumping right into that. Okay.
I thought that was really cool, actually. Like, for one, like, okay, in this, it's obviously supernatural, and I like how they go all out supernatural. Like, the witch is basically a being that can manipulate time and space, and in a way that's horrifying, because, there's nothing they can do about that.
No.
Like, they're basically in the presence of a god, pretty much.
Exactly. There's humans messing around in the vicinity or in the area, the territory of the witch.
But only at night.
Only at night.
But if you remember, even in the original one, there were scenes that took place in daytime. I think the witch might be able to do something during the day, but it seems like she might prefer to hunt at night, like a predator that hunts at night almost.
Speaking of that, I just thought of something that I noticed about the movie. You're right. During the day, when they were deciding, you know what, now the sun's out, let's try to head back to the cars. They could never reach back to the cars, even in the original movie, when they were walking back the same direction they came from, because it was never ended.
It was constantly circles.
It was a constant circles, right? This kept looping, like the witch could be in space. So she kept repeating it over and over again. Even when they used the drone in part of the movie, they looked around, they couldn't even see the river, they know that was like a marker point to go back. But that only happened in the day. But at night, every single scene that was at night, they always got confused between the time, because the time was always messing around. Even their devices were confusing. They were confused by it. But you never really noticed if space was a factor that happened at night. But we do know time at night was a factor that was being changed, but in the day space was.
I think the space, it did. I think that was the point of the drone. Because the drone wasn't utilized a lot. Like, I thought the drone would have been really, used to some sort of plot. But really, it only used 2 or 3 times in terms of what you saw the drone see. And the first time, you saw, the river and essentially, the path out. The second time you didn't. So I think the drone was meant to show what you were saying, which is she can manipulate space.
During the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Time.
And also when the two locals, Dwight, was that his name? I keep forgetting his name.
I call them, it's Dwayne and Talia.
Dwayne, that was his
Lane
name.
and
Lane and Talia.
Talia.
Yeah, and when they get kicked out of that group, And like when you see him again, they were out there for like 5 days. Yet the rest of the group, it's only been like a day. And then when you
Not
see
even that, it was earlier that afternoon, so they saw him like 7 hours later.
True. Yeah, they got
And he came
manipulated.
through with a beard and he like.
At the
At
end,
the end of the movie,
yes.
he had a beard, like months had passed.
Yes.
So,
and there was the comparison you made between him and Rustin Parr. Like he's basically
Yes, the original
Rustin.
Lawrence
Ooh, I never
story.
thought about that.
That's, yeah, I was telling him before we went on air here, I viewed him as essentially the modern Rustin Parr, where the witch got into his head, his voice, saying, kill 7, I let you go. Because at the end, when he threw, who was the girl's name, Ashley?
No, it was Jane. I think Jane was the name
Lisa.
of
Yeah, threw,
Lisa. That was.
Lisa.
Why am I thinking her name was Jane? Whatever.
Lisa.
Well,
I'm pretty sure her name was Lisa.
yeah, threw Lisa down in the cellar. Before he did that, he said, there must be 7. Referencing the story of Rustin Parr, who was he killed 7, let the 8th one live. So I viewed Rustin Parr, essentially Lane, as Rustin Parr for that time loop. Which would explain how Rustin Parr basically was telling the truth at the time, as there was someone telling him to do it.
A voice in his head.
Yes.
To do it.
And with the time manipulation and what Lane was doing and all that, it actually, a part of me in the film wanted to see his side.
Yeah.
Like I understand.
And he had the camera, so there's
Yes.
probably so much more story that could
Yes.
be told there.
And I understand that he was on the side, like a side character, more focused on Heather's, brother in the group. But at least show us, his 5 days, his experience, how he ended up where he is. Like, he has a mystery that you kind of want to explore.
And
Yeah. I saw.
I do want to finish your point, then I just want to talk about what we all thought of the characters in the
Alright.
movie.
Well, I mean, I saw a theory on the internet. Someone making ideas. There's a lot of theories going on because now the movie opens up a whole new world of
Yeah.
possibilities of what the Blair Witch can do and all the lore about it. If you're saying he had to kill 7 to leave the 8th one alive, that kind of makes sense as to why there were 5 characters in this movie, which were Jimmy. Well, not Jimmy. What's his name?
James.
James.
Well,
James.
Jimmy, James,
James.
same name.
It's funny because I said Jimmy because he actually played a character named Jimmy in The Walking Dead season 2. But
Was that
Yeah,
him?
that's
he
him.
did,
That's
that was
him.
him, yeah.
That's his boyfriend that got killed at the end of the season.
Oh my
Spoiler for Walking
God, he
Dead.
didn't do anything on Walking
Yeah.
Dead, so I didn't even remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was him.
Alright.
But no, him, the two girls, the black girl and the other girl that lived.
The black girl was Ashley,
Ashley, Lisa,
and then Peter was
Peter.
the black guy.
black guy was that all 4 or there was
There
5?
were 4 of them, and plus Lane and Talia, that's 6.
Okay, so that's 6. Making Lane Rustin Parr-ish for this modern timeline, and Talia, that makes 5 characters, and he was the one being controlled, right? I'm thinking, because when at the end of the movie, when the house finally appeared, and he thought that there was a woman that was standing there, he thought that was his sister, Heather, right?
Oh, yeah.
If the time manipulation is, in theory, like what we expect it to be, it could be moved around in different time zones. Maybe their storylines did cross paths at some point. Maybe Heather was in that building, but
I think in terms of what you're trying to get at, I think the 5, Talia and the group that Lane was trying to take out, I think that was in a continuation from the original 3.
the original 3.
Of
So
Heather, Mike,
that's
Josh,
what I
plus
was
the
gonna get to.
5 together equals the 8.
The 8.
So I
So-
think since Lane found the girl, I think Lane was trying to have essentially Heather's brother be the one that makes it. Because Rustin Parr killed 7 and the 8th one survived.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it was, who was the first one who disappeared in the original movie? That was
In the
Mike or
first, it was Josh who
Josh
disappeared
right?
first.
And then he found some teeth and blood inside.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was fucking creepy
It was
in the
creepy,
original.
yeah. And then Mike was the second one to get caught. And then Heather had to go look for him in the basement, and then we just see him standing in the corner, and
Yes.
Heather got hit, and that's how the movie ended.
Yes.
And
And
now we see this
Oh,
movie.
sorry, finish your thought.
It's continuing. Very generic. The black guy goes first in this movie.
That I didn't like that because you didn't have to go with that cliche.
It's a very
Yeah,
cliche
yeah.
thing. I was
Yeah,
like,
I thought the
really?
same
He
thing,
had to be
honestly.
the first one
Yeah.
to go, but he went.
I was kind of annoyed, like they could have done something else with him, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He went, then Talia went. Which is an interesting thing, because
basically the stick figures are voodoo dolls.
Voodoo dolls. They're connected. They're cursed. So I guess those are like totems to connect them to being cursed against what they're not. They can't escape even if they want to. Now they're permanently stuck there until they can find a way out of it. But as far as we know, they can't find a way out of it unless the entire thing is done. So that makes Talia makes 5. Then what was the next one? Ashley. Ashley from Falling from the Tree. 7th one, James. But then we don't know what the actual fate of Talia, because if the idea goes through with the 8th one to keep it alive, but the camera just drops and we see the movie end, we don't really know what really happened.
Same thing like Heather then.
Heather then. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Heather was actually a continuation from another group of people from many years ago. Maybe she's still alive. Who knows?
Well,
because
even in the original film, they talk about people went out into that woods and there was that group of people who went out to the woods and then they found him on Coffin Rock, all torn apart, and I love the mythology of the Blair Witch series. Like, it's such a interesting mythology. Honestly, have you ever seen? There's around the time the first movie came out, they released a documentary called Curse of the Blair Witch.
I've never seen it.
I heard about that.
It was actually a really well done documentary, and obviously they were playing it up to be real because around that time everybody thought the Blair Witch was real for some reason.
It was right at the beginning, the cusp of the internet really becoming something.
Yeah.
So it was kind of one
the
of
very first movie I did viral marketing.
Yeah.
And I like how in this movie you see. I like how they incorporate this modern technology.
Oh yeah.
Where the original one took place in the 90s, so it was 90s technology. Here you have a drone, those freaking cameras that go into those earpiece cameras, and then some old technology too, because Lane, or why do I keep fucking up that guy's name? He had that old style camera, so I like how. And one thing I think is interesting.
It's like a homage to the first.
And one thing I think is interesting is this idea that the witch is some kind of ancient evil, yet modern technology is what is telling people outside of the woods about the witch. This idea of something ancient being mixed together with a modern technology. I thought that was something really interesting about the movie.
Because I guess people back in the original movie thought, if they had better technology, maybe they could have captured some sort of evidence or clue as to what this thing is or what's really going on. But I mean, this movie proved to show that even newer technology can't do anything against it. The drone got shot down. All their technology was messed up. Times were being rearranged. They were confused. Even the time of the daylight and nighttime were confusing as hell to the characters. So it was they were hopeless, even with this new technology. So it was it's very interesting seeing that point also being made in this movie.
And one thing I want to point out is this idea of a constant time loop. They find the footage on YouTube in the beginning, which James thinks is Heather. You find out at the end.
And Lane uploaded.
It's like a constant time loop that they
right
can't
by the
escape
broken
from.
tree, which you see in the end of the film, is right next to the house.
Which the house wasn't during daytime.
No, it wasn't, because we were at the tree in the day and there was nothing there. At night, all of a sudden there's the house, which technically means that all James and
Heather's.
No. What the hell is the name of the black-haired girl who wanted to fuck James in the movie, but they weren't really
Lisa.
Lisa.
James and Lisa. All they had to do was walk around the house and get to their cars and escape.
That's
because you can't. I took fun. You can manipulate her space, but the witch couldn't manipulate items. So there's no. So to me, there's no way that she was going to be able to get rid of the cars. You can't make them disappear.
No,
the cars were there.
People outside of the vicinity of where the curse starts to activate on people, they can still see the cars there, but I guess to them, the space just looks like a normal forest.
So which means all they had to do was just go past the house. But obviously the witch was smart, wanted to take them, and obviously put the house there, which was the house that Heather was in, and obviously we went into that final, 20, 30 minutes of the film.
And basically the whole idea is it's a constant time loop that these characters probably can't escape from. And you can kind of take that as, I'll let you finish your thought in a second, you can kind of take that as basically hell. Because hell is thought of as being a place of constant repetition. Like in Dante's Inferno, Dante talks about the sinners suffering the same punishment over and over again. So, like, maybe the witch basically trapped them in hell pretty much, or kind of a hell, like a hell of the witches making, in a way. What were you going to say?
Well, speaking of hell, they did the same exact thing in the show Preacher, if you've seen it.
I gotta watch that show,
still need to watch that.
Well, hell was like, it had these weird flashbacks where they kept repeating with a certain character, and his story was developing into something very sad and dark, and we didn't know what the hell this point of the story was, because it was like 200 years before the current timeline, but we realized it was a repeating loop of the worst moment of his entire life, and that was his hell. So I was like, that's an interesting point. But what was I gonna say? We were talking about the time manipulation thing. That causes a big question, though. Time manipulation thing. In the beginning of the story of the new movie, they found Lane found the tape.
I wanted to get to the footage.
What was the point of like the witch leaving that there from the future for them to find, just so they can repeat something that was already gonna happen? You know?
It's just this whole idea that time is like this constant cycle that you can't escape from, and that's an idea that H.P. Lovecraft talked about in some of his stories. If you ever saw the first season of True Detective, the character of Rust Cole, Matthew McConaughey's character from that show, had that same theory on time.
Yeah.
And like even in a lot of Alan Moore's comics, he has that like idea of time. And to me, that's a horrifying idea. The idea that time is this constant cycle. You can't change the past. You can't change the future. And that's something that really kind of got to me about this movie.
And I think this film kind of best represented that.
Yeah.
In like a physical manifestation of that metaphorical sense.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to point out at the end when I'm fucking up her name. Lisa. When Lisa has the camera pointing to her, and like the whole idea is like she could see the witch through the camera, but if she looks directly at her, she'll die. I feel like that was definitely a take on like the Medusa myth.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a lot of aspects to the Medusa myth that say you could look in a mirror and see Medusa, but you can't
direct eye contact.
Yeah, and if you ever saw the original Clash of the Titans, the scene where the main characters from that movie were going to fight Medusa, they used their shields to look at Medusa, but didn't look directly at her. I really do feel like this idea of the witch is almost like a modern day take on the Medusa myth in a way.
But yeah, no, I thought that was actually pretty smart, but also pretty interesting. That one shot where most cameras, they're like a handy cam, they can flip it over and see what's behind them. And the witch is not dumb. It's really smart. The fact that it knows that this Lisa could see it from a reversal of the mirror, it didn't just disappear. It went to the side.
Yeah.
It knew it was being seen. So I was like, that was interesting. This thing, like, I don't know, because this is the bigger question. Why lead us all to this? Because the bigger question as well for me at the end was when they made it to the attic, which was, I thought that was an interesting take for the movie, because the first movie ended in the basement. This one ended in the attic. So there's a lot of interesting things about this house, right? But the house doesn't exist to modern people outside and during the day. When they were trying to find Heather, Mike, and Josh, like in the beginning of the movie, they kind of made like a small documentary leading up to the event, what happened after the original, up to this point. They couldn't find any existing building in the entire forest, right? But
and if you remember, they talk about Rustin Parr's house was burnt down after he killed those children. That could have been like the witch, like making Rustin Parr's house reappear
the
there.
Rustin Parr thing happened in 1920s, right?
40s.
40s?
Yeah.
40s. It was still like early on, way more earlier on to the current timeline. But there used to be a village there, the village of Blair. That's where the whole thing started, right? But they found that village abandoned after the supposed events of the woman who was accused of being a witch. If the time manipulation thing is correct, she couldn't affect, she couldn't affect items, but she could affect time and space. If this building was something that was there once before, this building was from probably the original village of Blair. Possibly. Or if not, maybe it is Rustin Parr's house, but who knows? No one can really confirm any of this stuff because no one can see it, besides the characters that are doomed to be murdered.
And what I like about this is even though they do tell you a lot more about the mythos and expand on it, there's still a lot that's left open to the viewer's interpretation. Like, you still don't know exactly everything that's going on.
Why the witch is doing this, especially to, like, how the tape ended up from the future and present time.
Yeah.
Why specifically try to lure the first victim, Heather's brother, like the relatives for this? Because honestly, like if this has already happened with James and his friends, just so that we can see it happen again, it's like a constant loop. Why? Why does it have to be?
Maybe the witch can't even control it herself. Like maybe she too is like trapped in this time loop.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe her personal hell is being cursed to be this horrible thing for all eternity.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the film, I don't want to say it was trying to get across, but I think by adding the time manipulation, it purposely creates the more question and answer mentality that you have coming out of the film.
And that's
Much
one of
like-
the things that made the
Nice.
original one such a great film.
In the original one, there wasn't that time manipulation, but it had the what is this?
Yeah.
What is going after them? And you could have the post-movie discussion debate on what you think it was. This one, instead of having the post-movie debate be what is going after them, it's essentially what the hell is going on.
Why is it doing this?
Why is it doing that? So
Yeah.
instead of who, it moved over to why.
Now, what did you guys think of like the characters and the acting in the movie?
For the most part, it was alright. I mean,
Yeah.
like, it wasn't bad.
They
It
did
wasn't
a
bad.
job, like-
It
No,
was-
no, no. For those type of films, it was definitely better than a lot of what we've seen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will
Oh, yeah.
say this though is it was good acting, but it felt like acting. And the thing about the original one, and I know I'm making too many comparisons to the original one, but in the original one, it didn't feel like acting. It felt
No.
like these were real people
Yes.
out there in this woods. In this, it's like, yes, you can tell it's acting.
Okay.
And I will say, in terms of how the characters were, I liked all the characters except for Peter, the black guy in the movie. Not because he's black, but because...
It's very underdeveloped. We didn't really get to know much about
The
it.
thing I didn't like about him was I felt like he was so unnecessarily mean to the two Lane and Talia, like the two locals, like to a point where like he was outright making fun of them. Sorry, that's my dog. Like he's making fun of them to their faces in the beginning. Okay, yes, you see the Confederate flag in their living room in the beginning, but I felt like he was so unnecessarily mean to them. And, okay, when they pull that trick on everybody else, yes, I can understand being pissed off at them about that, but before then, they didn't really seem like bad people, and they were just, not everybody else, but Peter was just so freaking hard on them and so mean to them.
I took things a little too seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he was mean because of the Confederate flag, like a racism type of thing. I think he was the non-believer of the group.
Yeah.
I think he was the skeptic, so he's like, meeting these people who most likely he views as, crazy or paranoid to, actually be, obsessed and, eventually, into it. But I think that's why he essentially was mean to what you were saying.
Yeah.
I think it's because of his,
Speaking of these characters, I just remembered something from the past topic of unexplained questions. A brand new thing that happened in this movie that I'm still confused by, and it was only shown once, but we never really got to. They never really got to explain what happened. Ashley's foot.
I was gonna bring that up.
I completely forgot.
Because that was a creepy part of the movie,
was.
but they didn't
It was.
really lead up to that.
No.
They kind of forgot.
They kind of just
Yeah.
forgot about or killed her off, and then just like, I was like, what is this thing growing? Is this also part of the curse thing?
yeah, I was expecting
I was
expecting a
something
twist in that.
Major twist.
Like I was
or
expecting
bigger
almost
plot.
like an alien kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when that thing like poked out, I was like, what the hell is that? Like that kind of got me. When I first saw it, I was like, yo,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to deal with that.
No, I
No.
wasn't expecting that when he was
Yeah.
removed. I'm like, ooh.
I was surprised she could still move around like when they were trying to escape. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I quit.
And
I know.
I do wanna-
Once the death flew, it was like she had no more injury. She's like, I'm out, and just hustled.
Climb the
Yeah.
tree.
Apparently climbed the tree.
And I do want to point that out. Like that was one problem I had with the movie was she has this problem with her foot. Yet she's climbing this tree to get the drone that's stuck in the tree. Yes,
I
there's
was the
probably
same,
important footage on that drone, but your foot, you have God knows what in your foot right now.
Yes, but realistically, look at her position. If you are in that same position, guess what? You see the drone is able to go 100 meters in the air and find your way out. I don't care how injured you are. You're going to push yourself to escape that type of setting. You're going to go through
Okay.
hellfire and brimstone to find a way to escape, even if you got to go against your injury.
If it's
You make a
like
good
glass
point,
dish
and
or-
also I do remember she is Peter's girlfriend,
Yes.
and her boyfriend goes missing, and like, she obviously
Yes.
want to know what the fuck's
Yes.
happening to her boyfriend. So I can see where you're coming from there.
Yeah, when she fell off the tree because the Blair Witch was attacking her. Or
Predictable, by the way.
Predictable. Yeah, it was very predictable.
Once she got on the tree, I knew
like-
something was gonna happen to her.
Yeah, I mean, even the trailers kind of showed that too. So it was like,
Yeah.
yeah. But the shots that I like, even with Peter or Ashley, or was it, or no, not Italian, I mean, it's Italian, but specifically those two characters, the witch does something with their bodies because it's like Ashley fell, but we can see where the camera was laid. Something dragged her body away.
Yeah,
So-
you never saw her drag it. Like,
no,
you never
we just saw
her
the
take
body
the
being
bodies,
dragged, but we
you
never
know
saw
the
like,
bodies
we
were
didn't even see
taken.
the hand or nothing, just the body being dragged. We know it was being dragged by something.
Yes.
So that's interesting. Like it doesn't really
Yeah.
explain what else does the witch do to them after they die.
Maybe it eats them. If a ghost can eat people, maybe.
Maybe who knows because they can never find the bodies. But then again, they're stuck in a
But
time
this
loop.
witch,
That's why they
once
can't
again,
see
this
them.
witch could also manipulate time and space. So who knows what the fuck happens?
Someone
you know?
also said something about the space manipulation, where they're in the middle of the night trying to sleep in the tents, and they just hear the cracklings of the trees. People believe that's the woods being shifted or moved, so then it's like they can't find their way back out.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And what is your guys' interpretation of? Remember at the end where they're in the attic and they see the lights shining through.
I forgot I was gonna get to that.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
I think that was the
Time.
beginning. That was the time loop. That was the.
they're going where they died was right before the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
The light was, in my opinion, was absolutely the showing of a time loop. They were going through time at that point.
all right.
That's
I almost-
absolutely what it was.
I almost took that as like those are. I was half expecting the movie to end where like you see cars pulling up to maybe that house or somewhere, and like people are out there in the woods looking for them, and they're there, but nobody can see them, and they're. That actually would have been kind of really creepy if like it ended with the characters like saying, "Hey, we're right here," and nobody can see them.
Nah, it almost would have been. I would have almost called it cliche
Yeah.
Okay.
in a way.
No,
For
actually-
me, if you had to change the ending, like gun to the head. All right, change this ending. I personally would have went with what I would call a tormented ending, where you had James and Lisa in the corner. They both know they're screwed. James gets cold. He goes. Now you're down to Lisa, and she's got the camera, right? I would have cut it. The second it was established that the camera, boom, disappeared, I would have went back to her, have her just show amounts of fear, and you see the look in her eyes of like, what do I do? I don't, how do I get out of here? And then cut right to black with the logo, basically showing the viewer that she's screwed no matter what she does. She can't really go anywhere. She's stuck. The witch is just going to get her in the house or outside. It's basically she's avoiding the inevitable. She's putting it off, and it's just a matter of when she decides, you know what? Take me. I think that would have been more creepy or more like, oh shit, like that would have resonated more.
I would have done probably the camera she was holding.
Uh-huh.
It just cuts to black where that camera was just like the video or like the battery died, right? But the camera she had on her earpiece was the last thing that was still recording. So we see her first person point of view, and the last thing we see is her turning around after hearing James's voice, and we see what she saw before
Yeah.
that. That was how I would have
I'm sorry, but was she an idiot?
Oh,
Explain.
because
For
James
they're
voice?
both, yes, they're both there.
Yeah,
They're
that
both
was.
there. He hears Heather, so maybe I understand why he
Yeah,
would turn.
that made sense.
But she noticed the witch is gonna use voices. All of a sudden, backing up. James is speaking.
Yeah.
James?
Yeah,
Boom.
you know what I
Really?
think? I honestly think she knew in her heart it wasn't James, but I think
But she
she
wanted
knows
to-
she's fucked. She knows she's fucked, and maybe she might as well just turn around. I don't know, like, I almost feel like she knows she's fucked at that point, and, like, it's over with, and maybe that one bit of false hope is all she has to go on now, so.
She just goes with it, I guess. Just hope
Yeah.
maybe that it really is James, and if not, I'm dead. So that's it. Flashing light thing. I just came up with a theory. If it is what we believe, where time was being manipulated to go back to the beginning
Or somewhere,
or
just
somewhere,
Yeah.
who knows? Where the tape was found, because it's got to go to that loop where the tape has to have already been recorded. That scene that we saw when Lisa was running up to the attic,
Yeah.
right? that scene was recorded already, and they were already in the attic, and then the beam of light came up. If it is what we believe, where time was rewinded, time doesn't rewind exactly the same speed. That flashing light might have been a lightning strike that hit the tree.
Okay, and it starts there?
And it starts there, because I'm pretty sure if it reversed, the tree's back to normal now, the lightning hasn't struck yet. And then when Lisa dies, at the end of the movie, supposedly, the camera still records, you could hear a lightning strike.
I didn't pick that up.
Okay.
It might have been that.
Yeah. So, did we all like the movie?
No, I thought it was great.
Absolutely.
I can see why critics aren't giving it like the perfect amount of score. Besides IGN, give it 9 out of 10, but everyone else is giving it like 5 out of 10.
No,
You know what I
I've
think?
been reading pretty positive.
Yeah, no,
I
but like official critiques, they like it was.
I've been reading like mixed things, honestly.
Honestly, this is a movie for Blair Witch fans by Blair Witch fans. So
Yeah.
it's like it really elaborated more upon.
But I actually do know a lot of people who love the original who did not like this one. And I think maybe they're expecting exactly the original, like done in the same formula. And I knew going in, this is not going to be.
No,
it could be that.
No,
But
Go ahead.
No, you go.
For me, it's two things. Definitely one of the biggest criticisms I've seen is they show the witch.
That's
A
what I say too.
lot of people believe that by showing the witch, you completely ruined
Their
the
imagination.
entire lore
Yeah.
about what Blair Witch is. You basically just shot the entire thing. Now that we see the witch, you essentially ruin what the film was about.
True, but like yes, in the original one, what you can make up in your head is far more scary than when they can actually show you.
Yeah.
But the way I take it, the witch is supposed to be a ghost, and I always figured ghosts could probably take on any form that they want. So that stick creature was just one of the witch's forms. That witch probably has many different forms. So, like even like when you see the ghost of Heather, that could have been the ghost of Heather, or that could have been the witch in the form of Heather. So it's like, you know, I mean, I don't really think that ruins the mystery of the original film. I mean, the original film, you already have that is it supernatural, is it not supernatural thing. So this being outright supernatural already ruins that aspect of the original.
Alright, so then I'm just going to go down the line, shoot rapid fire questions until we get to the end here. So basically, you kind of answered the first question already, which is, do you think that showing the witch essentially ruined the lore and ruined the whole idea of the film? So do you think showing the witch ruined the film?
Ruined it. I mean,
No,
it's kinda
I don't think so. I think a lot of people are saying this is ruining the first one, and it doesn't. The first one's still there. You can go back and watch the first one. This is just a sequel. It chooses to go in this direction.
Okay. So then let me change the question. Does showing the witch have a negative impact on the film and the series as a whole?
No,
yes,
I don't
just
know.
simple
I
yes
don't
or
think so. No.
I don't think so.
When it comes to your personal rating, how would you personally rate the film from 1 to 10?
I don't like doing number ratings. Honestly, there's so many different factors that go into it. Number ratings I never saw.
Fine, would you do thumbs up or thumbs down?
I'll do a thumbs
You
up.
do
I
thumbs up?
like it.
Thumbs up, yeah.
Thumbs up?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs
Alright,
up?
we all liked it.
I
We all
like
liked
it.
it.
If you had one criticism to make about the film, what would it be and why?
I would just say there were a few cliches that they could have done, they could have not done, and even like those false jump scares you had. But they even kind of, you could tell that they knew what they had all those false jump scares, and they kind of made fun of that eventually in the movie. So
I was kind of thrown off by at the end. Like I kind of felt like they probably shouldn't have showed like. I mean, it was kind of interesting that you saw like a glimpse of it, but like, you know, like, I don't know. Like I think it would have been better if like they didn't show it at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not really much besides what they said. Maybe. Well, we touched upon the acting. I mean, it was great, but it could have been better. It felt like you could tell they were acting, besides like compared to the original.
Okay.
But it's kind of criticism, but at the same time, I like this. They answered some questions that made sense for what the first movie, like what happened, but also made more questions about what can this thing do. So
Yeah.
but I mean, I like that because that's what Blair Witch is about. Like Blair Witch is about the idea of what this thing can do, but no clear-cut answer, and it's up to the viewer's imagination. Right? It's kind of left ambiguous. That's what I like about Blair Witch. It's very ambiguous. So
I agree.
Favorite scene?
I think when they first go to the house, that was my favorite scene.
I gotta agree with him. Once the rain came down, for me, that's when the whole film picked up, and I fell in love with the film.
That's hard to say. Honestly, like, I would say, honestly, when they're first camping out in the woods at night, when you first hear that tree fall or whatever the fuck that was, that was legitimately creepy because it's like, what the fuck caused that to happen? You know, like, was it just naturally or is it the witch? And like, it's like before anything else happens, like just that, you know, oh yeah, shit's about to go down.
Okay.
Most notable scenes I can think of on the top of my head. Talia in the tunnels.
Mm.
Not Talia.
That was
No,
phenomenal.
not Talia, sorry. Lisa.
Lisa.
We
Lisa.
keep we keep
I don't know,
fucking
the
up the
names are so
characters.
weird. The names are so weird. No,
I kind of felt
Lisa,
like claustrophobic.
the tunnels with Lisa. Talia's spine snap with the stick figure. What's another very if I had to name 3. Oh, when they found the house, I liked that too. That scene was pretty cool.
Oh, that was great. Totally on the edge of my seat. I was so captured by that entire.
The very first scene that was repeated when Lisa was running through the house. The fact that they picked up in the beginning to show you that he noticed somebody there, thinking it was his sister, was really his friend he was talking to in the beginning of the film. So I thought that was interesting. They pointed that out so you could pay attention to it. So when you see it the second time around, you're like, this looks familiar. And then you see that quick face, you're like,
oh shit!
Actually,
Absolutely.
I have another favorite scene. At the end, when Lisa is running through the hallway up to the attic, and she turns the camera, and you see the witch coming right at her. That was shit. You're fucking, because if I saw that thing coming after me,
it was like crouching down in the house trying to get through it because like this thing was lanky. So it was like, it was creepy.
Yeah,
that was the only one shot where you see it was like it was a large creature. It was extended. Like before that scene, well, you saw a glimpse of it like behind a tree. Like Lisa was gonna go run to the house now because she was like, I'm not staying.
You saw like a silhouette of a head,
and
head and a shoulder.
And I swear, I think you may have seen it very briefly in the scene where Peter disappears for the first time. I think you do see something.
You see, like
Dude, there's definitely
when
shadowy.
James was going to the house the first time. And you see, he goes into a room, and the lightning struck, and all you see is I think it looked like Peter. Peter was standing in the corner.
Yeah.
And then the light went through again, and then he disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with supposedly Heather when he was chasing her, and he went to the room, there was nothing there, and then it was pitch darkness, and then lightning showed up, and then you see a woman standing in front of him, and it disappeared.
And then
one last scene, I said it before, the foot thing.
Oh yeah.
That's terrifying.
That got me. I was
Maybe
like,
like cringe.
First of all, I have terrible feet. Not to get too personal, but athlete's foot sucks.
Ooh.
My feet suck, and I would end up being like Ashley in that movie. Something bad will happen to my feet if I went out to those foots.
Yeah, those are the scenes I would say.
would you compare this film to the original?
Not
Or would
no.
you have it be a standalone thing? Because in my opinion, it's a continuation. However, I personally went into this film knowing that it could never capture what the original could ever do. So for me, it was, okay, if Blair Witch came out in 2016, here's my interpretation of it. Let's see if they can bring it to life. And for me, that's where they excelled on. They basically did Blair Witch in 2016. Because whether you want to call us smarter, jaded, whatever it may be, we're caught on with the internet and stuff. You can't really trick people in 2016 than you can when that one came out, and even the 80s with all type of horror films. We've essentially seen it all in a way. So for me, it was going and going. How is this going to handle 2016 audiences? And that's what I think really captures this. This is not trying to be when it came out in the 2000s, just trying to push it again. It's updated and catering it to the 2016 audiences, which is where I think this film is getting the recommendations that it is.
Yeah, I think I would compare it, I'm not saying this is as good as Aliens, but like, people always compare Alien and Aliens, and to me, they're two completely different films. Same with Terminator and Terminator 2. Completely different films. Different styles, or even Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. Like, yes, Dawn of the Dead is a sequel to Night of the Living Dead, but so completely different that you can't compare the two movies. Like, that's how I'll see this one. I'm not saying this is anywhere near as good as the sequels I just mentioned, but you know what I mean, though.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I pretty much, same thing.
Yeah?
Really, yeah.
Same thing. The fact that the first movie was the cult classic that started it all, and this movie, the connections with the Donahue family, being James's younger brother, being the younger brother of Heather. Great continuation, but the fact that that's the only thing holding it together as a continuation is a great movie that stands on its own. That's a great sequel as well.
Well, it could. You could show people who know nothing of Blair Witch this film, and they would still be able to understand what's going on. Because the beginning sets it up. He's looking for his sister who disappeared 15 years ago in the woods.
Yeah,
that's literally what I gotta tell.
The first movie.
Yeah, that's what I gotta tell people, and some people don't even need to see the first one. You know what I'm gonna say? That and go right in.
Bonus thing, they showed what happened afterwards when they were trying to search for her.
I actually do want to. I know we talked about the characters already, but what did we all think of the character of James Donahue, Heather Donahue's brother?
I thought it wasn't that bad.
I thought he was a good character, but I felt like he was a little underdeveloped. Like they could have really went into his psyche a little bit more about how much it's really eating him up. The fact that he has no idea what happened to his sister, and that's his whole drive for being out there.
They could have, but then at that point you're making it just a dramatic film.
Yeah.
The point of found footage is you're in that moment.
Okay.
You're basically documenting what's going on right then and there. At least with the first one, you more or less had the time and ability for them to go off and do their own monologue, obviously with the infamous and very well known scene where Heather with the camera, she's just letting it all out. So you were able to have that character development moment. Here, as much as you could have, I don't think you truly could have done as much like the first one because you had too much going on.
Yeah.
You had the 4 groups, and they were getting picked off one by one. You had the witch who was doing random things that we didn't see in the first one, so as a viewer you're trying to keep up with what the witch is doing and not doing. You had the YouTubers who were going off doing their own thing. They essentially had their own story and movie going on, and you're trying to figure out that. So as a viewer, there was too much to keep focused on. So I think the development that you're looking for kind of had to suffer in a way.
They should do a spin-off of this movie about
Lane and Talia.
Lane and Talia.
The 5 days that they were gone.
It made me want to see their side more than the side that we did see.
When you think
because
about
it looked like they went through a lot more.
Oh, they got screwed over.
And they suffered worse than what our people went.
After a few hours, they were like, when was the last time you saw us? I was like, we saw you this afternoon. It's been 5, 6 days.
And then when you saw Talia get
And
close to them,
she's like,
you see Lane
she was
say,
starving.
don't get near them. This could be a trick. She could be setting this up.
And that implies that happened before.
Yes, which means that the witch has done something to them during that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. During the 5 days, 6 days time span within a few hours. So I guess every hour
And then
for these characters was like a day for them.
Yes,
so.
and that was a 5-day gap with them. And then all of a sudden, when we see him next, he's full beer, which means he had to be out there for months. He was lost. He was completely taken.
Because he completely separated himself from the group. Like what happened to Josh in the first movie. He completely separated from the group, and we didn't see him ever again in the rest of the movie.
Correct.
So he was lost in some other time.
And now, final question.
Oh, the final question.
Would you recommend this film? I personally say yes. Simple yes or no. Do you recommend it to people?
I would so recommend it.
Yes, but I know if I recommend it to some people probably would not like it. Because they probably would, like, as a normal movie viewer who are interested in movies, they would see this and they'll be like, okay. Because they didn't know the lore, they didn't know about the original movie, they didn't know about anything. They'll probably be caught up to speed, but they'll probably be like, I'm confused as well.
We talked about everything we needed to talk about. You're tired, go to bed. Alright, so that was our review on Blair Witch. See it, I recommend it, everybody else does, and catch you all at a later time.